I mean, number one, first and foremost, Tuton absolutely changed my life massively for the better in so many ways, and continues to help so many people. It's
Welcome to Metaverse Degen. I'm Lion.
I'm Old Man Raptor, and our guest is.
Hi, hello.
Hello. Thank you very much for joining us, Kye. It's an absolute pleasure to actually get to meet you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice meeting you, guy.
Oh,
Hey,
so
nice meeting you guys too.
oh, what is it you're most known for, and how did you get started with everything and into the platform?
I think I'm most known for my world building stuff, particularly with Shelter. And yeah, I mean that's also kind of how I got started. And Shelter was or not was, but it's still a massively driving thing in my world because it happens every 2 weeks consistently without fail, and we've been doing that since 2020, since the pandemic, and creating a space for people to convene and look forward to every 2 weeks. So
Oh,
that's something that I get to be a part of, and it's really exciting.
so how has Shelter gotten you started with world building, and what got you into VR chat?
Shelter didn't get me started with world building. What got me started with world building was actually because I dabbled with it for funsies, just making little scenes, modeling little things, but it wasn't, very good. And I just kept doing it for fun, and then um, I I think what happened is I was selling. I drove across the country with my friend who was a sociopath, and he told me weird things, but we ended up trying to sell pest control, and I lasted about 3 weeks selling pest control door to door. I think I quit as soon as I sold my first account. It was terrible. But yeah, I use that as an opportunity to really lean into and to take the work seriously, and did my best to make something that I thought could exist that didn't exist yet, and then it did, and then it was great.
Wow.
So,
Wow. So may I ask, what were
yeah.
some of the first worlds you made, and what are some of your favorite projects you've worked on?
Some of the first worlds I made, I'm not sure. I tried to make a world for classical music. I'm really into classical music, and I tried to make something for that, and then it ended up not being quite there. I don't know. A lot of the worlds, I did a lot of tilt brush stuff. That was pretty fun. Um, nothing really of too much uh, grandeur.
Hmm.
Just little art pieces, I guess. But yeah, I'm not too sure. There's one called Hospice that I think is really pretty. There's an album, Hospice by the Antlers, that I really like. And I tried to make a world around that. There's two. There was like a first one and then a second one that looks better. And then there was gonna be a full story world with it, and then I didn't finish it because it's so much.
Oh, well,
I got a
well,
question for him, Line.
shoot.
I have a question for him. What was the weirdest thing you ever seen when you came into VR?
What was the weirdest thing I've seen in VR?
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Yep.
God. I don't know if I can answer that.
Okay.
I think
We can imagine
um
what that would be.
yeah, no, just go to a public instance for, you know, at least 30 minutes. Just sit there, like go and be a ghost, a hole in the wall, and work on something else while you're sitting in a public instance on a desktop mode, and you'll just see people come and go, and then just the weirdest interactions, the weirdest people. It's very strange.
Mm.
It's got a strange flow to it, VRChat. I don't quite understand it.
It does. Well, now that you're mentioning public instances, I remember something that 2TD said where how he met you, where you went up and said, pepperonis aren't real. What made you say that to begin with?
um, because approximately 5 seconds before that interaction, some guy who was from Italy was rambling. I think I got like a full 5-minute lecture on why pepperonis aren't real. I don't know why. I don't remember anything about it, but I just remember that this Italian guy was really mad that pepperoni was I don't know. He was just telling me that pepperoni wasn't real. It was very strange. I'm not sure.
Hey, Lion.
Mm.
It's just like Japanese spaghetti, right, buddy?
Sort of, I guess.
Japanese. I love Japanese spaghetti.
So the story behind Japanese spaghetti is we were in a fur lounge a long time ago, and this guy was in an interaction where he was angry about something about ramen. And what I think it was me, someone else or me went up and asked, "You mean Japanese spaghetti?" Which then started a multi-hour rant on how about ramen and how it's not that. And then it went on for a lot longer. And every single time that someone would stop and back away, someone else would come back up and call it that. And he would just keep on going. And it was the funniest interaction. That was all. That's what he's referencing.
That's beauty. That's beautiful.
Well, so what about the angry Italian guy led to you saying that to 2TD?
I mean, the angry Italian guy is whatever, but I liked Tuton. He had his album art for with friends on his avatar. He had a Vroid, and it was really cool. And then I think we talked about that, and then we just talked a lot. But yeah, he was hanging out with us, and then I did a VR prom because I was upset that my friends weren't experiencing prom. Because the COVID, it was 2020, lockdown happened. My friends were like, at the time, we were all huddled in our bedrooms, like, what do we do? And so, yeah, I was upset that they were getting deprived of that experience. So I wanted to make a little VR prom for them, and we did. We had a VR prom, and it was really awesome. Everybody had dressed up their avatars, and I think the world is still on my profile that you can go visit at some point, but yeah, it was a really sweet experience, and he DJ'd for that. I didn't know anything about electronic music, so he was like, "I'm a DJ." I was like, "Can you DJ at the VR prom?" And he had the rave music and stuff. I didn't know, I didn't know Porter Robinson was until like 3 shelters in or something like that. So yeah, I don't, my musical taste is way the hell out there. But I'm very thankful for Shelter for giving me lots of cool music because there's so many cool producers, and I have a much higher respect for DJing now than in the past. It's really nice.
Yeah.
But really, Two-Tone and I, Shelter. You've talked to him before about the creation of it, but I guess I'll also add that it was really exciting because, yeah, it was like something that we got to do, something that we thought could be done and wasn't quite there yet, and it just became a thing, and it was really exciting, and it's been so nice seeing people being able to enjoy themselves every 2 weeks, so I don't know.
So a question for you on the topic of Shelter. What has it been like for you seeing Shelter grow from when you and Tuton made it initially to one of the most sought out events that people want to go to?
Well, it's kind of nice because I feel like I'm so detached from a lot of things that I get to. It's kind of like if shelter was a plant, I don't feel. Hold on, I have to think about this. um, um, no, it really does just feel like gardening. I don't know. You just like water it every now and then, throw some mulch on it, and then every now and then you prune some stuff, and then you sit there and you stare at it, and it just kind of blossoms, and sometimes it takes a really long time, but the flowers are worth it. So.
Hmm. Well, what have been some of the inspirations for your worlds, including Shelter and as well as the others, such as the one we're in now? We're on a giant, partially finished skyscraper.
Yeah, I really like to go into abandoned buildings and stuff. So this is kind of to scratch that itch for myself. But I mean, initially, Loner was a huge inspiration. I ended up optimizing their worlds, I think in like 2021 or something like that. Like remodeling a lot of it, and that was really exciting. And it was cool to see that culture for the first time and get to experience it. And then we then Shelter kind of grew its own direction where it leaned a little bit more into the fantastical, not a bunch, but I started dreaming up the world with some friends of mine. We would create storytelling. I like storytelling. And so did our best to make stories that you can interpret and see in the environments, and they're a little bit more foreboding and a little bit deeper roots, and to the point where people thought there were crazy ARGs, but really I didn't make any crazy ARGs.
How do you?
I mean,
sorry, you continue. I apologize.
Oh no, not to stop you from searching. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, so when you how is it
Sorry.
you tell stories in your worlds? And yeah,
I really like I think a company that is really good at it, which is like a completely different subsect, but Escape from Tarkov. The environmental design in Escape from Tarkov is so freaking cool. Like, there's so many little tiny details and little tiny things where it blends into the background, but you stop to look at it and you realize that, hey, there's a blanket there from somebody who slept there, and that's part of this thing, which is part of this other thing, which I don't know. It's kind of silly, but I really enjoy having things that mean things. Having layers to the 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 cake. Rather than having it being all chocolate. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. So, how did you jump into making worlds with intent of telling stories, or is this something that developed over time?
It just was natural. It's like playing music or any other art form. It's just kind of you use it to speak on something, and so it's just it's weird because you don't really think about those kinds of things when you're doing it. For me, it's kind of a I just got pissed off that something didn't exist. and then that turned into me, like, it's not like mad at anybody or anything other than the fact that something doesn't exist the way that it could be, like, it's in a dream. Excuse me, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to answer these questions.
Don't be sorry. It's a-okay. I don't expect you to be able to answer every question. I tend to layer them, so don't worry. I apologize. You have nothing to be sorry for. So, with some of your worlds like this one, where there's when you make these and you're trying to tell either stories through it or have people walk through, Did you like teach yourself intuitively like how to guide people through the world to your story, or do you guide them to whatever the destination is supposed to be? And how did you pick that up and over time?
I think it was more along the lines of I don't really think about it like that. I think about how I would like to do something. Like what if I could climb into an abandoned skyscraper and have a party, like what would that experience be like? You close your eyes and you imagine, okay, well, first I have to jump this fence and then I have to get to the door, because it's broken open because that's what you'd probably experienced. And so then, the experience of walking past the window and seeing the moonlight, your shadow from the moonlight, that would be something that I would find really significant, that would stick out to me. And so those are it's like lots of little moments together, I think Ghost Club is really good at doing this. They have a lot of it's so experiential rather than photoreal, and I have a massive amount of respect for their creative team because it's like they've taken a lot of the things about VR that are really difficult to get around, and they've just kind of said screw it. Like they're really good at silhouettes. Silhouettes are like the most important thing in VR by a long shot. Using silhouettes like the mountains in the distance, or if you're in a crowd in VR, being able to see the movement of all of these layers in front of you, it kind of it's really important to the whole kind of shebang. Or like when you're in something like this, being able to see the silhouettes of all of these, bars. They're, drywall holdy uppy thingies. Who knows what they're called? I don't know how to. But silhouettes are so important, and yeah, they're very, very good at using them. I think that people need to think about silhouettes more.
So,
I got a question for him, Warren.
shoot.
In real life, have you ever went into an abandoned building?
Like a building like this?
Any abandoned building in real life? Have you ever been in one?
Yeah, I've been to a bunch of nothing like this though. This is a new one for me. That's also kind of why I made the world. Honestly, Outlook was made in a bit of a pseudo rebellion. There were and have been a lot of people that have been very negative towards shelter, and I'm not 100% sure what led a lot of it to be, but it was kind of made in. I didn't realize it when I was doing it, and I didn't realize it till like a year after, but I kind of made it as far away from a club world as I could make it. If that makes sense. Like I was like, how can I make a world that isn't a club world that is kind of a club world so that people can't do it, but it kind of was almost a kind of like I don't know. It's hard to put into words. I'm not sure I understand it myself, but it's also part of the reason that we haven't been back here. It's got a weird energy to it for me. So, but no, what was the question again?
Have you ever been in an abandoned building before in real life?
Oh, yeah, no, I haven't. I was gonna, a long time ago, I used to bring like a GoPro in and do the whole thing, and then I had to scrape all of that part of my past. I used to do it a lot, and then what happened was I ended up free climbing a crane at like 3 a.m. in my town. I lived in Cali. There was a crane that like went over an overpass, and I free climbed the entire thing, and I got to the top, and then I had a panic attack, and it was the scariest thing because I was, 100, 200 feet above I don't know how high it was. There's a certain point where it stops mattering, but no, I was up there and I about passed out from fear, and that kind of stopped that arc of my life, which honestly I'm a little bit thankful about because you know, but
Oh,
yeah, don't do that much anymore.
so may I ask you about that? What made you want to climb the crane in the first place?
I don't know. I think I like I like experiencing things. I like who knows? Who knows? I'm not sure. I have no idea. That's a question that I wouldn't be able to unfurl under 8 hours of sitting in a blank white room.
Okay. So, in the conversation we had 2TD when the shelter was decided of to be the name and the sign and all that, you had it already made. What was the purpose for shelter being made initially before you suggested it?
So it had absolutely nothing to do with any like club or whatever. It was a neon sign that I made because I watched a tutorial on how to make neon signs, and then I created I was like a bunker. I like created a bunker, but it was a really bad bunker. The world's still on my profile. You can see it. What's it called? It is called Bunker. Yeah, it's literally called Bunker. It was one of the first worlds I made. It's actually got music from Pascal Creations, who is one of the first people I met on VRChat, who's an amazing musician. But yeah, it literally nothing to do. I made it because I watched a tutorial. I was making a bunker. I was like, oh, I'm making a shelter. It's kind of like a bunker, It had nothing to do with. It was so unbelievably disconnected. Yeah,
Oh,
it's quite strange how that kind of stuff works out.
it is strange sometimes in even real life or even VR chat where you'll do one thing and the next thing you know you're on a completely different adventure, sort of related but not really.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Hmm. So with a lot of your worlds, how many projects do you have and are you self-taught?
I mean, I used to spend lots and lots and lots of time kind of just in Discord calls, screen sharing, and bouncing between creative people. And I think that's when I myself do the best. Because I really struggle to focus on things if it's just me and alone in a room. I wander and go that way and then that way. But if I'm, I really enjoy being around creative people, and yeah. Is this what I need to? What was the question again?
How many worlds do you have
I want to make sure I'm going the right way.
and
How
are
many
you
worlds? Okay.
self-taught?
Yeah, I have lots and lots and lots of worlds. I am kind of self-taught, sort of. I mean, it's hard to say that because it's, I don't have any formal education, but I've gotten so much help from so many people around me, that saying self-taught is hard to. I can't really say that. I've been taught by a lot of the community around, and I like to think that I have hopefully extended that outwards from myself as well. But it's been in the recent times, a lot of my projects that I've had have slowed down a lot because I just don't spend as much time in here, partially from health. I have
Hmm.
weird eyes that don't like being in VR.
Hmm.
I'm learning, and yeah, a lot of those creative people have just kind of gone off to do other things. So it's hard to maintain a lot of the projects that I would like to do, because I have so many dreams for like creations, and I have so many things that I'd like to do. It's just hard to dial that little monkey with the tambourine in there. But yeah, I'm not
Okay.
sure.
So, with that said, who has been some of the most helped you, or I'm trying to find the words. Who has been the best coach, or some of the people that have meant the most to you, who taught you the things you know now?
Oh yeah.
Mentor.
Well,
There we
I
go.
mean, mentor, yeah. I mean, number one, first and foremost, Tuton absolutely changed my life massively for the better in so many ways, and continues to help so many people. It's I have unbelievable amounts of respect for him. I think people I think he deserves so much more. And I wish I could give him any, make his dreams come true. And I think honestly, eventually they will. But I hope that he finds just happiness in life, because he's given me so much, and it's hard to it's hard to even come close to thanking for that. When I lived with my family, it was really difficult. I had a stepfather who, I'd fight it out with if I ever saw him. So I was basically locked in my bedroom for the entirety of a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, something like that, while I was living with my parents until I moved out. And the only reason I moved out was because of Tuton and because of patrons in shelter who liked what we did. And a lot of those people have continued off to do other things, but even still, I have so much thanks for all of them, because they really have changed, my world and everybody who gets to see shelter for the first time. It's easy to forget how, a lot of people spend a lot of time in VR and they get kind of jaded into the rhythm of things and what's normal. But seeing this for the first time for a lot of people is like mind-boggling, and getting to meet the people that hang out here is really, really exciting. And then, now we're doing more of the IRL events too, so now they get to make friends that they can see in real life and go on a hike with afterwards, and bring a pineapple and draw a face on it, and have it go on adventures.
Mm. That's really awesome and wholesome. What was
Yeah.
some of your first time experiences like, where you're like mind boggled, or may I ask?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I had a lot of holy cow moments. I don't know. Where you're just like, you just see something in it. I met somebody in here, Skipper, and a quote that he said, which is also at the start of I think it's only in the trailer of We Met in VR documentary, where it's me saying, but it's my friend's quote: VR is like a shared dream, where you're dreaming something and it's not technically real, but sometimes that dream is like overwhelmingly cool. And I have a lot of worlds in my my VRChat profile. I'm _ Kye. I probably won't accept your friend request. I'm very sorry if you're someone who's listening. But I have a playlist called Essential Experiences, and that has lots of worlds that did that exact thing for me. And a lot of them are really goofy, but that's, sometimes the goofy dreams are good too. So, it's all part of the same vein. And if you eat too much, it's and you need contrast. Otherwise, the really beautiful things don't quite sit the same way.
So, what were some of those worlds that have stuck with you? from back then that why'd you put those on your list?
Gum Gum.
Gum Gum?
Yeah, so it's this world. I can't talk about it, and so it's a, get this, it's a black tile floor that warbles, and big concrete pillars, and in the center is a 50-meter statue of a baby in a Zen position, like made of
Interesting.
bronze. It's Gum Gum. I think that's what the world's called.
Oh. Well, I'm most definitely gonna have to go check it out.
That's a very important world to me.
Why is that?
That I think. Well, I don't know. There's just, yeah, Gum Gum by PK. Beautiful world. Highly recommend. No, I don't know. It's like, it's just a fucked up weird dream that doesn't make any sense, but you see it and it just makes perfect. I don't know. It's great. It's a great world. Also, all of Carl Cronin, all of Apathy's worlds. Both of them, I'm really lucky to say that I know them both, and they're really wonderful people. And there's so many more. There's so many people that I really, Mochi has got some super sweet worlds. Yeah, I can't even begin to list. Look in that look in that world thing sometimes when you're with some friends or even just by yourself. There's some pretty things and also some really goofy things. Which is essential in your daily life.
Well, I'll be sure to check those out myself from your list.
Definitely check them out.
No
doubt.
You did say something though. VR is like a shared dream. Did you ever create anything from your own dreams, and what about that dream invoked you to create it?
Yeah. I mean, I also have I've had some dreams recently that have been pretty profoundly scary that I'd like to create, but they're also, I've set the bar so high with some of the stuff that I've done that it's hard to step back, because it takes so long to do a lot of this stuff that when you dial the level of detail back, it can be disappointing and then frustrating, and then you don't. This is the kind of rut that I've gotten myself into where it's like you get used to painting really finely, and then, I have to go back to big brushstrokes really fast, which can be really beautiful on their own. They just have to be, you just have to feel confident in doing it. That's a whole world, but yeah, no, I have some private worlds that I've tried to do on dreams, and I think, do I have any public? Oh yeah, what's it called? This wasn't actually a dream, really. There wasn't a specific thing, but it was more of a idea. The backside world. That one was created under the intention of, what would like a really beautiful, like melancholic beach. If you had to close your eyes and go to a little secluded beach, and at the time I was really into WC, and I still kind of am, but that whole thing was kind of built around a lot of WC stuff, and yeah, it's a pretty dream. I like it.
Sounds like a pretty dream. So,
Yeah.
when you for example, the world you just mentioned, when you make those and you set yourself up to fulfill an idea, what is your process in creating those from what's up in here down to the canvas?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. I think, it's the same process in 3D as it is in any other medium, where you have kind of a block out, and then you get some basic, lighting ideas. and I'm really mindful of silhouettes, like so lighting is really important to me, in all regards, but um, I really like to do blockouts. I think that they help a lot in seeing the shapes of objects, and even before they become objects, if it's just a cube with a thing that sticks out like this that ends up being like a tree, it helps you understand the curves of, what you're going to be looking at and the frame of each, moment, I guess.
Okay. What was some of the hardest things for you to pick up in terms of like world building and stuff?
Oh, it's a good question. Probably networking. Udon networking is especially, in the past, it was so confusing for me. And more recently, we've had people to come in and help, but when I was doing all the scripts by myself, it was pretty rough. And they got the job done for the most part, but it was kind of like, um, anybody who went to older shelters knows that it wasn't exactly ideal. It was not the pinnacle of stability as it is today. So, um, yeah, that's something that I had to learn, hit the ground running, and not really enjoy doing, but do it so that people can have fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you another question as well, kind of related to Shelter, but VRChat as a whole. What have been some of your favorite things with starting with Shelter that have happened, events or moments that have stuck with you?
I have so many. I met a lot of people in here and then met them in person. Where it's been kind of a natural extension of it, and it's been really nice. But yeah, I have so many good memories like that. But there's countless times. I remember um, there was one event specifically where it was like an old Razumu collab that Obake played at, and it was in the club with the really low ceiling, and the fog was, they had the particle fog going on, and it was just like, it was such a good memory for me. And or like the Ghost Club Bond Festival, that was really beautiful. That was one of the most beautiful things I've seen in VR chat, because it's something that I never would ever see, outside of flying over there at a very specific time of year and knowing the right people, I feel like. But I got to just log into my headset at 4 a.m. and see a bunch of drunk Japanese people, having a good time, which was great. I always feel so out of place in the Japanese community because I'm such a goofy person, and I feel like that's very counterculture to their, but
Okay. So
yeah.
I'm going to ask you another question as well. Within VRChat as a whole, what are some of your favorite things to do in the platform or VR and as a whole? Hello, I'm here to interrupt your current video. Ask you a favor. Down in the description, down that way, is a link, metaversedegen.card.co, which you have a whole bunch of other places. If you wish to continue following us, we have a Twitter, which I run for us, which you get updates and other stuff and random thoughts for me. We have a Discord where Raptor, I, and the entire crew and all the other people we know will be over there hanging out. We game there fairly regularly or hang out in there, so feel free to go over that way and come chat with us. We'd love to meet you. We have a Spotify now. Surprise. Everything from a couple weeks ago forward, we'll have our Spotify content on Fridays. If I remember, we'll put some of our old content forward, but we're going to keep up with the current content on Spotify. So if you wish to watch it there or listen to it there, it'll be there for you as well. Also, we have a Patreon, which we have a whole other show, which we haven't been keeping up with, but we're doing our best. But we have a whole other show there for you.
as well. We would like to give a huge thanks to some of our supporters over that way, which is Future Oracle, Aliquum, Niche, and Forbidden Zero, all of which we thank you very much for everything, and hopefully we'll see you around and you continue to enjoy the content. Enjoy the current video. Oh boy.
Favorite things to do?
Hmm.
I really like exploring, and I really like meeting new people. I feel like VRChat's good as like a... I like to public world hop, and then, but specifically in the like new worlds or like those kinds of tabs, because that's where you get a lot of the people that are exploring and, you know, they're not logging in for the first time to say the N-word in a public instance, you know. So we try and it's like public worlds are like a statistical game where you're just trying to better your odds of not running into those people. And yeah, it can be tricky. It can be very tricky, but I like to just hop through stuff, and it's a lot easier if you have a friend or two, but it can also be good spiritual healing to experience how lonely it can be otherwise. You know, it's good to go through that and realize how valuable your friends are. You know? So
Cool. With that said, what did you mean by spiritual healing, may I ask? I'm a little... Well, that's what, like,
yeah.
clarification.
Well, it's confusing because you're like, why would jumping through public instances by yourself be and just getting berated nonstop? Well, it's kind of like the same reason that you would, you know, do a really difficult hike or something. It's just you're conditioning yourself in a way, but also you're learning how to, you know, I mean, this is just a principle of like there's probably some religion out there that's all about this, but you get you're basically just learning to respect what you've got by not having it for a little bit. You know. And then every now and then that changes where you meet someone cool and you do get to have a good conversation, but a lot of times with the public world hopping, especially right now in VRChat, it's kind of brutal. It's pretty brutal.
What do you mean?
It's pretty brutal.
That's what you mean by brutal.
It's just a lot of people who don't really want to talk to you. I don't know. It's a weird ecosystem right now. Like you have like right in this very moment, you have quest children, you've got like people who are kind of lost in staring at yourself in a puddle, like, but the reflection is way more beautiful than you are, but you're like you're like, whoa, you know, so you really just stare and you get really into it. There's just, okay, I should say there's not growth outward. A lot of it is kind of atrophy or kind of this stillness or something. I don't know. There's not a lot of outward growth. It's not people who are like I don't know, in 2020 when you'd go into like a lunar plants world or something and you'd run into somebody and they're playing their guitar, and then you can get into a conversation about, I don't know, it's difficult to put into words because there's not really empirical evidence for it, and it's just a feeling where I don't feel like the people that I'm running into more often than not want to grow outwards, or I think that's the word. They don't, yeah, something like that.
So was things back when you first started way different? Has things changed since you started in that sense?
I wouldn't say it's way different. I think a lot of the creative people, I mean, this is just from my world. Obviously, it's different for everybody's. But in my circle of friends, a lot of the people that were creating nonstop have slowed down or begun to do other things, and or taken breaks from VR chat, and that's led to is kind of me spending a little bit less time in here, and I'm not sure. I mean, every now and then it comes in waves where I'll get into. There's plenty of people that are making things like crazy right now, and um, this is just from the people that from when I got started, I stuck to quite a bit. Yeah, it's a very personal experience where
Hmm.
I'd like to meet more people that are making and growing all the time, because I'd like to do that too.
Well, there's one good community I can suggest to you, filled with people like that, and I actually had the chance of meeting a lot of them this year, and that's Project Community over in that area. It's like a big community festival where people kind of show themselves off. But the community is so interactive, and there's so many people creating things all the time over that way. Maybe you can pop over that way and get a revitalization, I guess one would put it.
Yeah, I could do a little wandering. I like a little meandering.
Really
Yeah.
friendly group of people. They've been nothing but humble since we've met them.
Well, sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that said, I'm going to ask you a question how has your view of VRChat changed as you kind of grew with the platform, may I ask? Do you view it any differently than when you first started?
Not really. It's just an extension of reality as it was in the beginning, where a lot of people see it as a lot of people don't quite understand, especially people outside of the VR, sphere. They don't understand what the purpose of it is and why it can exist, but or why it should exist or anything like that. But no, it's still the same role where it gives people an extra outlet to experience something, that they wouldn't be able to experience otherwise. Like for me, it's the Ghost Club Bonfest, or even Shelter every 2 weeks, being able to see all those people dancing and having a good time. That's really big for me, and important for me too. But yeah, it's just an extension. It's just a extra 50%. It's not the 100% because you can't touch, you can't smell, you can't push, you can't break the glass on the windows. But for what it is just another tool. Just another thing that people can experience.
Well, as you say, it's another tool, and as well as you enjoy seeing people interact with Shelter, do you create to put what's in your brain on the canvas, or do you create to see other people enjoy your product?
It's both. It's both. I really like seeing things that I've imagined, and then it comes into reality. But more than that, it would just be a husk if people weren't inside of it. I think it's much more special to see people that I've known for a long time, or even people that have no clue, kind of be in that first, that daze of what is this, what what's going on. Yeah, I like to have to help people experience that. I'm not sure what that would be, but I like it when people experience things.
So have you ever had any interactions with people who experience your worlds, and what have been some that have stuck with you as you interacted with them or talked to them about it?
Oh, tons. Yeah, so many, so many. It's always cool, especially when somebody mentions something about liking it, and then there's somebody that you look up to as a creator. That's always really exciting. But I don't have a particular thing that pops into my brain right now. I have probably the worst memory in all of mankind. But yeah, no, I there's many. There's many. It's hard to pin.
It's okay. Well, I will ask you as well. Did you expect the journey you've been on since you hopped in VR chat? May I ask, or was it kind of a go along for the ride kind of deal?
Oh, 100% go along for the ride. I don't expect much. I have like a few general goal posts in life. And a lot of them are, I want to hike the Pacific Crest Trail or something similar. I want to, yeah, I don't know, I don't know if I should say some of the dreams that I have because they're not legal, but it's just I hope that VR continues to be a place that people can experience things as they have been, which I think it will. I just has to keep on watering the plants, you know what I'm saying?
Mm. Yeah. I have seen, like in your bios, you say you're a gardener. May I ask where that came from and why do you describe yourself as such?
Because Tuton called himself the shelter janitor because he has to deal with so much like crud all the time. And so I was like, I'll be the gardener. Yeah, it's kind of cute, you know. You're like the gardener and the janitor. Wow, yeah. I don't know, but I like the sound of it.
Mm.
I've been growing my own plants recently. It's been pretty nice.
Oh. Well, I will say it's a very,
Yeah.
very unique way to describe yourself, and I think it's honestly pretty awesome, at least as I person do.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Well,
I think being a janitor is pretty cool too.
oh, where did Mask, where both both of those descriptors come from, Mask? I know you probably told me, but I have a shit memory too.
No, it's all good. No, it's yeah. Two-tone just has to deal with a lot of crud, you know.
Mm.
So it's just cleaning up after that
Mm.
crud, and then, uh, you know, just keeping things clean, making
Mm.
sure that the halls are swept and all the doors are locked after hours. So yeah, I don't know. It's they're both little analogy things, but they're kind of fun.
So I have a question I've asked some other world creators as well, but I'll ask you because I'm curious. What are some items in your arsenal and your toolkit that you use, and was it something you went to in the beginning, or something you kind of learned you needed over time?
Arsenal toolkit. Um, I mean, nothing. I feel that most of what I use is already out there and is being used by a lot of other people. Just because the information of it being the best way to do things is, I don't think that there's anything that I'm doing that's different than what most other world creators are doing now. I think it's literally just, um, I think if people want to make things, it's important to do your best to try and experience them in person, because if you're trying to model something like a door, um, if you have the experience where you've been out at 3 a.m. in Portland and you've you see all the metal doors and how they react to the light, and you've like touched them and you've observed them and you understand the door, you're kind of like touching the whole thing and you're looking at it from all the angles. And I mean, you're not obviously doing that, but when you're going outside and when you're seeing things, um, you're kind of learning about objects. Or if you're driving through a tunnel, you're learning about what a tunnel is. And it's not like a conscious thing, but when you go to make it later on, it's very easy to see the people who have experienced certain things and they've translated that experience very, very well. That's something that apathy, I think, is really, really phenomenal with. I think that they've experienced lots of sunsets. They've experienced that 3 a.m. calmness, and then the way that the world like starts to breathe out and the light starts to come. They have such a good understanding of that, and um, yeah, I really like. And obviously, that was one of the people that I mentioned, and Carl Cronin is somebody who a lot of the worlds that they've made, they haven't experienced certain things, but that doesn't really matter. That's not like an essential thing, you know? But I think that for people that are trying to do this kind of style specifically, just experiencing the world and observing it as closely as you can, you know, not necessarily licking the doorknobs, but understanding the doorknobs. You know what I mean?
Mm. So, what made you
I
want
don't
to?
recommend licking doorknobs.
No, don't be that one lady from the news article back in COVID where she's licking the elevator buttons.
Yeah,
Mm. So,
it's not very cool.
what made you want to choose a more realistic style of world, may I ask, versus like the comfy creator or the abstract?
Well, I mean, honestly, the abstract is something that I've wanted to kind of lean into a little bit more, but I think I enjoy tricking my monkey brain. I like to look at a scene and get confused, whether whether it's real or not. I do my best to do that, which is also why I've kind of slowed down on making worlds because I've been struggling to hit that mark recently with myself. But yeah, no, I enjoy tricking the brain into a false sense of what is and isn't real, I guess.
Mm.
So that's kind of more why it exists. Like it is technically realistic, but this doesn't actually exist anywhere, and also it wouldn't necessarily exist in this way. It's not really photorealistic because if you took a picture of this, it wouldn't quite line up, but it's enough information for your brain to interpret it and go, yeah, this feels right, you know. So
Mm.
I'm not sure.
May I ask what?
A lot of my older stuff was surreal.
Oh, what
Yeah.
started this whole journey of wanting to create things in this style? What made you want to like? I want to build a brain tricking world.
I just got the tools to be able to do it, and then I stuck with it. I'm not sure. I think that was kind of it. Like once I learned how to do it, I was like, oh, this is pretty fun, you know?
Hmm.
So, yeah, I think that was pretty much it.
Okay. So, may I ask, of all the worlds you've made, what are some of your favorites in your list of your creations?
Oh, yeah. I mean, pretty much all the shelter worlds have been really fun to make. Well, I shouldn't necessarily say fun to make. This one was a nightmare to make. Um, but it turned up turning out beautiful. But my favorite worlds. Wait, hold on. Let's look. I think the prom world was definitely one of my favorites. Oh no, hands down, grow. Grow
Oh.
has been my favorite. Yeah, grow is it's like this concrete hole,
Hmm.
and it's got like some dirt at the bottom, and then there's a little planter, and then there was a baby tree at first, and then there's lots of speakers all the way up, and they're playing music for the tree, and it helps it kind of grow. So it started really small, and then it got a little bit bigger, and then it got bigger, and it's pretty big right now. There's not really a way to get to it. And you just keep your eye out. You know, you might see it around again. The tree, watching the tree grow is really important. So
Hmm. So, may I ask,
yeah.
what started that world and why does it stay as your favorite?
Well, it started as a silly conversation with my dearest friend Makesum, and they kind of had a silly idea, and then the silly idea I made into a reality, and then that silly idea became a joke that got pushed a little bit further. And then I had a Joker moment where I made the world compatible with one of the joke jams. Basically, I made a puzzle that you couldn't solve, and I thought that that was really funny. And so I would sit in the world and I would like show people like, oh, you got to solve the puzzle, you got to do this, and then you can. Sorry, everybody that thought there was actually a puzzle that you could solve there. Yeah, there wasn't a puzzle, and so people would spend like 2 or 3 hours, and so then it created this like experience where you have the people that know that there is no puzzle, and that's the puzzle in itself. And then you have the people that are trying to use the stick to hit something in the concrete hole while the wild music is playing. It was beautiful. It was a work of art. It met all of the joke jam criteria, and they turned it down. Whoever you are that judged the jam, I'm mad at you. But yeah, I had a that was a very fun but silly thing that I've done, and I don't know. I like that world.
Sounds like you
It's
enjoyed
also
bringing
very
people
poetic.
there.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a lot of latent meaning in that world that I got to learn through meditating in it.
Oh.
And when I say meditating, I mean laying on my floor, staring up at the virtual sky while the weird music is playing, which, is kind of sweet.
May I ask what some of those meanings you found are?
Life's like a box of chocolates. No, I don't know. Go in the grow pit and you'll find something for yourself. I'm sure. You just got to spend some time there.
Hmm.
But it's not actually somewhere that you can go right now. So
Oh.
I take it back. You'll never experience life's greatest profound experiences or something.
Maybe you should try to bring it back in a future joke jam.
Oh, you already know. I would have done it. I would have done it in one of the more recent jams, but the trend of what they've been accepting is not. I'm setting myself up for failure. They did accept it into Spookality, and the Spookality version was really funny because there was like I'm mocapped like a shadow hobo that did little dances and stuff. Like you could only see his shadow, and the reflection of a light, a candle. That was pretty fun.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was the exact same gimmick, but yeah, it's silly. I like it. I like how silly it is. It's very lighthearted. It's very fun.
And a close second that you've mentioned may be one of your favorites, but they also talked at the beginning, the prom world. When the event took place and you made the world and started the event with and had 2TD play in it, what was the general response to people and what happened during that event?
Oh, it was so nice. I mean, I didn't get to experience or see a lot of what other people got to see, but it seemed like people had a really good time and got to hang out with a bunch of their friends for a night and dress up and, those things that people experience, it obviously isn't nearly the same as the real deal, but you get cool memories anyway, So I saw one of those people that went there actually got married the other day, and I watched like a live stream of them in Australia, and that was pretty awesome.
Oh. Well,
Yeah.
even if it's not like the real thing, I still think it's one of the most awesome things someone has done for people who missed something due to COVID. I think it's a really sweet thing to do. So it's still pretty awesome and unique, and I'm sure that event left a lot of stories of the people who went.
Yeah, and that's all that matters, really. So, it was cool. It was fun.
So another fun question I'm asking you is, how many forgotten projects are there that are unfinished? Do you have?
So many, so many. If I was on meth, I could create so many wonderful things. All I'd have to do is go through the stuff that kind of exists, sort of, but very loosely, it'd be over. Granted, I would probably like shrivel up into like a prune and then topple over, but yeah, no, there's so many things. I can't even begin to recount. It's a lot.
Well, I'm gonna ask a little bit. What are some of the projects that sit in the pile of the forgotten?
I mean, my favorite one that I really want to do is kind of the extension of the hospice world, where you get to. I kind of started it, and then I kind of didn't. Right now, it's a world called Constant in my thing, where you walk in, and it's just like a hallway, and you get to the room, and you turn on the TV, and it starts playing some music, which I think is broken now. It doesn't even work. But if you walk out of the room, a little ghost of me appears, and it's really broken right now in its current state. But I'd like to make something that you go through that kind of flow and you snap between different kind of dreams. And I think a lot of people have done that before in VRChat right now. But I have so many little dreams of even people that I've known in VRChat. I've just had these like profound things that I want to recreate, and it's so I can't put any of them into words, but I think eventually they will be made. It's just need to find the right moment. Right now, it's been hard to pull me out of. I've been working as a side job as a luthier, so I work on guitars and violins all day, as well as shelter, and that's been incredibly nice. Because I get to make things beautiful over there. It's restoration repair work. So it's in a similar vein in a lot of ways, but also not at all in a lot of other ways. It's been nice to give my eyes a break because these things are not happy with VR recently.
Oh, may I ask how many hours do you have in VR?
Like somewhere between 5,000 and 7,000. I'm not really sure. Compared to other people that I know in here, that's not unheard of. But it is a lot, especially on like rudimentary headsets that I probably didn't have the IPD set properly, So, yeah, it has done a little bit of a number on my vision, and I don't really know of anyone else that has experienced this, but yeah, I tend to not be in here as much because it does bother my eyes a lot. So,
that's understandable.
It's unfortunate. Yeah.
If something causes you pain, I don't blame you for not wanting to be there.
Yeah.
Well, last couple of questions before we wrap this up. First of which is the name you have in VRChat. Where did it come from and why do you use it?
Well, my parents gave it to me. I'm not really sure why. But I like the sound of it. It's my name. It makes it easy, especially when I meet people in real life. But yeah, no, I don't know. It's just my name. The underscore is just because I couldn't type 3 letters.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the avatar that you're in, what is it? Why do you use it? Is there anything on it or about it that means anything to you?
I mean, there's lots of things about it. I've kind of had the theme of it for a long time, and I had a really talented friend of mine who did tons of work on it to make it, nice and unique, and they went through all of the UVs on the hair so that I could bake the AO. God bless them for that, because holy shit. Yeah, and I've got an Adrian Linker hoodie. I really like Adrian Linker. I play guitar a lot. I really enjoy Adrian Linker and like Nick Drake, Elliott Smith, and all these kind of singer-songwriter guitarists. I hope that we can do stuff with people like that in the future. Because I'd like to have people experience that kind of thing in VR. Because I haven't really seen, an intimate singer-songwriter experience in VR because it's very difficult to do. But I have so many dreams.
Mm.
So many
Well,
dreams.
let me
I just need to.
extend an ability for you to see that dream in VR. There's a community, two of them I would suggest you reach out to. First of which is Corbell. Corbell's community does regular, large-scale performances with musicians and V bands and stuff like that. And then Goldie Lounge does that as well. Both of which do that here in VRChat, run really big, fantastical events. I can send you links afterwards if
Okay.
you'd like.
Yeah, send me some links. I'd be really curious. I haven't really experienced. I used to hang around artifacts a lot, and yeah, there's like a very specific feeling that it's kind of similar to Shelter that I just haven't. It hasn't been itched. I imagine for like a singer-songwriter that you only with like 5 or 10 people, and you meet up in a world, and you have to like it's like a meadow, and you have to go up a hill, and the sun is setting, and as the sun sets, maybe it like hits the branches, and you see the ghost of a projection of the artist, and the audio is spatialized, and it rings out around you, and you get to see this person playing, and like something like that. It's very different, but also something that wouldn't be nearly as cool unless the artists themselves could see all the people. That's another thing that's really important. If if you aren't being perceived, it's way less cool. But if you are being perceived, it's pretty neat. This is something that I've noticed about VR performances. If you're at like a rave or something, and the DJ is in their headset, like when Tuton DJs, and can see everybody in front of them, and the people that are dancing in front know that they can be seen, it changes things drastically than if they were like a projection and the people dancing didn't know that they were being. It's weird. It's hard to quantify. but are that being perceived is really weirdly important in VR chat for people and experiencing something. Like when I recently went to an Adrian Linker concert, and it was so fun because halfway through the show she'd just stop and then be like, "I like your shirt," and the people in the crowd were like, "Wow," but also like halfway through the show she'd just stop. The two that it changes it from being listening to a recording to this is somebody who's experiencing something right now, and they've experienced something in the past, and I'm listening to them convey that experience through music or through whatever it is, and it's cool. It's a cool effect. It's important to be perceived. It's important that the artist and everyone can see each other. It's funny. I don't know.
Is that why you think there's that with a lot of like events like Shelter, people want to be in the main instance versus the side ones?
Yeah, I think that's a part of it. But also some people don't really like being perceived as much, which is kind of awesome, and you can just do that too, So like there's a little bit of something for everybody. I know a lot of people that really like the overflows in the kind of crowd and community around it, and that didn't develop. That kind of just grew on its own. That's why it's like the Shelter Gardener, like that kind of grew on its own. That's like a stray branch that popped up and is really nice, but it wasn't like a a lot of the community and culture behind it wasn't really anticipated, if that makes sense. Like it just kind of naturally happened, which is pretty cool.
So something I know I asked the closing questions. I'm gonna ask more, but I'm curious. What
Oh
got
yeah,
you
go
started
ahead.
playing guitar? I'm doing
Oh
music.
yeah, that was similar time. I started playing music pretty late in life. Um, but I use it as a um similar expression, of it's just human beings like to express the human being stuff. And so that's what I've been spending lots and lots of my time recently, is just playing for myself. And I, recently got a free piano, and I've been fixing that up and doing finish work and stuff on that. And yeah, no, I really enjoy music a lot. I think it's very important for people to have something like that, because if you don't, a lot of those question marks in your head it almost feels like suffocating. I'm not really sure. It's just a good way to communicate feelings that you can't put into this language, you know? Music is good for communicating in a different language, because it is a different language in many ways. So, I don't know. Um,
So, question for you: since you've learned to play guitar and do music, do you try and mimic what you already like, or have you tried writing stuff?
oh, I've done both. I've mostly been writing stuff recently though, because um, I studied classical in a community college for a little while, and then I was learning so fast because I was taking lots of nicotine at the time. I was hitting that 50 nick every 30 seconds. I was like, my brain was like running at 5 million miles an hour, and I was able to learn so fast. It was amazing. Don't do nicotine though, because I was having so many heart problems and stuff. Later on, I had to stop. But yeah, no. I was studying classical, and then I just it was pretty depressing un how little opportunity that you get in that world. Like you have to basically be growing up, studying and dedicate, 11 to 12 hours of your day to this thing that won't make you money unless you're number one in Berlin. Um, so yeah, it's kind of a depressing thing to follow. But um, the yeah, playing to yourself and for yourself. I mostly play in open tunings. Um, you get to relearn the instrument every single time you play. It's really great. um, yeah, it's I'm not sure. It's just a new experiment, you know, every single time.
Well, I will say this, and I saw a video on YouTube of a classical person who is a YouTuber sensation, and and that is Lindsay Sterling. And she initially went, from what I saw, she went into America's Got Talent and got turned down because she wasn't the best, but then did things on her own anyway, and now she's all over the internet. So just because someone says you
That's true.
can't or says you're not good doesn't mean you shouldn't start to begin with. If you enjoy doing
That's very
music,
true.
just put it out there anyway. Worst comes to worst, you have a few people like it and you yourself. And if, as Raptor says all the
That's
time, if
true.
you have just one, then it's worth doing in the first place, right?
That's very, very true. I think a big part of it for me though is that I don't want to take this thing that it's so vulnerable and authentic to myself that it's scary to think about doing that. And also, as somebody who has experienced taking something that you enjoy doing and relying on it for survival, that can be it very much transforms the nature of what you're doing. at a certain point, there's a certain I'm not sure how to describe it, but I feel like something like that is much healthier and much more authentic and much more, you know, much more of the beating heart if it's allowed to grow and be this natural thing that slowly comes as it comes. And I'm not sure. Yeah, I'd be scared of having to think about it in any way other than when I get home from work, just relaxing and exhaling, basically.
Understandable.
So,
I understand. Well, I will say, Kye, thank you so much for letting us get to know you. It's been an absolute honor to meet the person behind the world, so thank you.
Yep, very much so.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope I made sense.
You made a lot of sense, and I very much appreciated hearing your perspective on things. It means a lot to me and Raptor.
Well, thanks.
It does.
If the audience wishes to reach out and find you, where would they go to find you?
I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky as Kye3D. I think I haven't really touched that in a minute, but no, go check out my VRChat profile _Kye. Like I said, I probably won't accept your friend request. No hard feelings, but I don't want people joining on my instances every now and then. But yeah, check out the world categories that I have, because there's some really beautiful things. And there's some really amazing creators and whatnot. So yeah. And get a plant.
Get a plant?
Yeah. Get a plant.
Okay.
That'll change your perspective on everything.
Okay.
Everything.
Everything?
Name it something funny. Yeah, you gotta name it something funny. And then you gotta like make a paper hat for it on Christmas.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, again, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and it was an absolute honor to meet you. So thank you.
Yes, it is.
Well, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Very much.
No problem. And everything that he's mentioned, his profile, as well as his links will be in the description down that way for you to find, as well as Corbell's community and stuff. As I mentioned to him, I'll put those in there as well if future line can remember it. If not, I'll put it in there later or someone yell at me. I don't know. But as always, this is the ending, and we'll give you, the audience, a question before we move it to Raptor to close. And we'll leave it to this. What is some of your pets' names or plants, as Kye mentioned, and where do they come from? Are the meanings behind them? We'd love to hear all about them. And with that said, as always, Mr. Raptor, you know the thing.
You got it. On this one's going to be a hard one to play in, and no matter what. But if you do find that plant and you want to call it Charles, just make sure you don't yell at it going, "Charles, quit pissing on my floor." That's known as a different type of pet. We'll talk to you later, folks. Have a good one. Bye.